Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's July and I'm so excited because July is a Harry Potter theme at Scrapping Fun Kits. So Raylene told me a couple of months ago that July was going to be Harry Potter and I was so excited for July. So July is here and here we go. This is the kit for Scrapping Fun Kits for the month of July. Look at this. I am so happy. It just makes you so happy. It's gorgeous. All right, let's have a quick look at everything in here. I've got to start with the papers because they are my absolute favorite. Alright, so starting off with the first one, this is a brick pattern, and straight away I think of the train station and platform 9 3/4. How beautiful. This is beautiful. It's like old parchment paper that has been stained and aged. Oh, it's beautiful. And this reminds me of Hogwarts library and where it looks like Hermione spent all her life. So this is awesome. I love these. And then you have a page here which is all cut aparts for the extra little bits in Harry Potter that just make the world come to life. You've got Scabbers, you've got the Nimbus 2000 or the Nimbus 3000, you've got Crookshanks and Butterbeer and some other things that are associated with magic and the magic world. So cute. I love it. Right, next we've got, wow, so is this washi? I don't know what this is, but this is beautiful. I think this might be, is this adhesive? Yes, it is adhesive. So you've got a wide washi here. This measures almost 8 inches across by 1.5 inches. So you've got both of these. Beautiful. You've also got some more washi here. So this is beautiful. So this is like a castle. So it represents almost like Hogwarts castle. I love that. Alright, so here are the 3 washis. Coming in a little bit closer, you've got the castle, you've got a beautiful tree landscape, and this gorgeous like rugged mountain. Reminds me of some of the Deathly Hallows scenes. So that is beautiful. The next thing we have is this gorgeous little wood veneer. So it has the symbol of the Deathly Hallows and the word always. So beautiful. This touches me in so many ways. You've got this gorgeous little tassel in the colors of Gryffindor. You can get them in the other house colors as well, but Raylene had asked me what my favorite was and I said I loved Gryffindor, so she sent me those colors. The next thing is these flowers. Flowers are always a great thing to add in any kit, and these come in the same colors as Gryffindor, so I'm sure I could use them. And lastly, you've got 2 metal charms in this kit. You've got one that says 9 3/4, and you've got one that is a bird cage. How beautiful. She's also added a cut apart of the night bus and a cut apart of an owl right there. So that is the July kit. I have a great idea for a project and I can't wait to get started. What I'll be doing is using this canvas, and I'll be making a little piece of art to hang up on my son's wall. We are just about to finish the Deathly Hallows, so I think that this will be a beautiful little piece to add to his bedroom decor to remind us of the last 2 years that we've been reading Harry Potter. So stay tuned because I'm going to show you the process of how I made that coming up next. Okay, so I'm just going to get started here, and I have got a canvas that is 10 inch by 12 inches and it's already pre-prepped with gesso. I can feel it, it's nice and rough. I'm gonna grab these 3 papers and I'm now just thinking about how I want to do this. Like they're all sort of different sizes. So at first I thought I would overlay them, but then I realized that they were different sizes. So for example, one of them is 5 3/4, the other is 5 3/8, and the other is 5 1/8. They're all 7.5 inches. So I thought perhaps that at first I might do squares, but if I did 3-inch squares, I couldn't get 4 out of each pattern. I thought, well, perhaps maybe I could just use the 2 washi tapes at the very top there, and then just have a few squares, 1 from each pattern. So I'm just doing a 3-inch by 3-inch here, and you get that much left over. And then I'll just repeat the same thing now. I will just cut 3 inches down and then cut 2 squares that are 3-inch by 3-inch. I'll repeat the same thing with the parchment. I decided to change it from a 2 by 3 to a 3 by 3. And I have a few spots empty. So I'm just thinking here, I'm wondering what I could do. I can't get 3 by 3. And then I grabbed this strip of brick and I thought that that looked really good. So this is how I moved it along. I actually love this formation and this is what I go with for the rest of this project. I remember that this cut apart sheet had a little journaling card which was 3 inches, and so I do end up cutting that down to 3 by 3 as well. And that fits in really well. I do remove the top washi and I bring the washi at the bottom there. I do end up shuffling everything up so that it fits nicely. And I'm happy with my basic design. This is my background for this canvas. Now, I loved the whiteness of the canvas, but I thought that it would be really interesting to take some of the elements from these papers and give some texture to the canvas itself. So I have just some cheap flimsy stencils in my stash, and I grabbed 2. One is of stars and the other is of brick. And I have my texture paste and my spatula. I also grabbed this Holtz Skull-and-Crossbones Set, but I never ended up using it. I kind of have an aversion to skulls and anything related to death. So I decided that I wasn't going to use it in the end. And I just stuck with stars, which I picked up from the washi, and the brick, which I picked up from the paper. I know that most of this will be covered up by paper, but what I did want was the edges and the spaces around each of the paper to show some kind of texture in between. So if this was the old me, I would not have had the confidence to do this stage, but I really wanted to give this a go. I grabbed my acrylic paints and I've chosen a few colors here. I've got red oxide, burnt umber, raw yellow ochre, and raw umber. And what I decided to do was go ahead and add some color to the bricks. So basically we've got the paper creating that look of bricks, but what I wanted to do was extend it out onto the canvas. So the first thing I do is just add a little bit of red oxide to each and every brick. It doesn't matter whether it goes on thick or thin. I wanted each brick to be different, and bricks are different. They're never, no 2 bricks are ever the same. So I'm just adding that base color using the red oxide first. I then go in with a little bit of the yellow ochre and then the deep yellow ochre as well. They're all different sort of colors, and I start to add a little bit of that mix onto each of the bricks, giving each brick an individual look. I then slowly add some of the burnt umber and some of the raw umber, and I feel like it really gives a lovely look. It was really important for me to keep the white in between, like of the mortar, and I was able to do that, but I really loved how that looked. I had never used this brick stencil before, and I feel like now all I want to do is go and do brick backgrounds from now on with my texture paste. So you might be seeing a few more brick layouts coming up. So as you probably noticed, I made it so that the bricks were mainly on the right hand side and that the stars were mainly on the inside and to the left hand side. I go for my creative medium gold paste. This stuff is usually beautiful to use and very creamy, but I'm not sure what's happened here. I don't like it. It's very thick and it doesn't come out at all. I might have left it open, but it wasn't open when I opened it, so I'm not sure what's happened to it. So I put it away. It doesn't work for me. And I go for my Nouveau glitter paste and add just a little bit of gold glimmer. Now, it was very important to me that I keep it very light, so I thought that by adding some of the glimmer paste, you're adding a little bit of gold to each of the stars, but I've still been able to maintain the white background. So I was really happy with this look. I also did grab the ink gold, and as soon as I touched it, I'm like, yes, ink gold, this is beautiful. So once again, I went over each of the large stars with ink gold, and I love the combination of the glitter paste and the ink gold. It's really beautiful. I then thought, oh, why not add a little bit of ink gold to each of the bricks? Yes, that's good. Ink gold on bricks is fabulous. So that's a little tip for you right there to try and see if you like it too. I'm just having a look now to see what the papers look like on that background. And then I thought, you know what, why not add a little bit of color? This is Perfect Pearls, which you can add a little bit of water to and turn it into a very fine shimmery color. So like I said earlier, it was really important to keep that background really light, but I thought it would be really nice to bring in a little bit of a blue sky, so pulling in some of that blue paper on. So I just added a little bit here, and I love it. If you ever want to add a little bit of color that's very light and still maintain a little bit of the whiteness of a background, try mixing some Perfect Pearls with water. You will love it. You will love the outcome. And I'm just doing some dripping here, and it's very satisfying. I'm really loving it, and I'm dripping it down the page. Most of this does get covered up, but what shows in between each of the 3x3 squares is absolutely beautiful. So if you'll remember, the bottom piece of washi is like a purple / pink / black, and I thought to myself it would be really lovely to have that sort of color around that washi area. So I go ahead and grab my two other Perfect Pearls. They are the color Berry Twist and Grape Fizz, I believe. And once again, I just add them and I make this beautiful kind of watercolory, dreamy background, which is just so beautiful. Once it's dry to the touch, I am now putting my squares back on, and I am so happy that I went that extra stage because I really love how this looks. I was pretty sure that the washi tape was not going to be able to stick on top of the textured background, so I added it to a piece of strong cardstock, and then I measured it so that it was the size of those two squares and that it wasn't going to overlap with that brick paper on the right hand side there, and I cut it to size. Here is another step that I never used to do, but I have started doing recently, and I've noticed that it has lifted my art to another level. It is basically smoothing your edges with sanding paper and then inking up the edges. I've got vintage sepia there, and basically you're just covering up the white core of each of the papers. It's a very important step to do. Time now to adhere my 3x3 squares, and I've got my spatula here and my Liquitex gel medium, and I try it here on the first square, but I don't like it. It takes forever to dry. It lifts from the side, and I know that I can't do this. I end up using so much just for that one square, and I know that it's not something that I want to do with this project. So I move from this method to another method, which is my good old trusty hot glue gun. The only con with the hot glue gun is that it is instant, so you have to make sure that it is where you want it to be. You have no wiggle room with the hot glue gun, even though it gives you the advantage of that immediate stick. Now, I tried my hardest to align everything up so that there was no crookedness in any of my papers, but I did end up with that long strip being crooked, which totally freaked me out at first, but then I decided to just go with it and just to add elements to offset the crookedness of that piece of paper. I just wanted to show you really quickly, these are stamps from my own stash, which I decided to use. I painted them up with some watercolors. I took them with me to my son's Taekwondo, and for 2 hours I painted them up, and I really love the extra elements they add to the piece. When you purchase the kit, you get these SVG files, which you can print out and use yourself. So I've just printed out the owl here in 3 different sizes, and I do end up using the smallest size. I have a picture of Hedwig, which I just downloaded from the internet, and I've got it here on the side there so that I can have a look at how I want to do it. I start off by drawing the mask around her face, and then her little beak, and then her eyes. I then move over to her wings, and where each of the serrations, I guess, of the paper are, that's each of her wings. So if you go along each of those, it shows you where each of the feathers is. Same with her tail. Each of the serrations indicates where one feather is. And a few little ruffles around her neck. The thing here is that she is at a 3/4 turn, so it's sort of important to make sure that the eyes are not really looking both at you. So I redo this attempt here, not the best, but I try. So Hedwig's eyes are yellow, and then I use my black gel pen to give her black pupils and then outline her eyes, and then I go over each of those feathers and make them obvious, and then I blacken her claws, and then I outline the edges of the entire owl and just go over my pencil work, which I will erase after I'm done. And that's how you draw Hedwig. Very cute. And I gave her a few eyelashes to make her very feminine. So what I end up doing is I stack 3 of them on top of each other so that it gives quite a firm element. The same with the Dementors, I apply 3 on top of each other to make them a thick piece. Alrighty, so we are ready to put all the elements together onto this canvas. I start off by putting the Always wood veneer, and I make it so that Hedwig is carrying her cage. The first square has the 2 brothers, Fred and George. One's going to be loyal and one's going to be brave. I put the 9 3/4 charm up the top there. I like how it sits. I'm playing with the paper clip, and I'm kind of thinking that it looks a little bit like a broomstick, so I'm hoping to somehow incorporate that at some stage. The second square will have the 2 teachers, and their sentiment says, "Make your own magic." I have some books here that I've created. I'll leave some links down below to where you can get some of these downloads off the internet. One is The Tale of Beedle the Bard, and the other is Potion Making. The Dementors are going to go just about here, and then I'm hoping to have Voldemort and all his cronies down that long strip. I've got the night bus at the bottom there. I like how the Hogwarts Express turns into the night bus. And then I've got Bellatrix and Malfoy and Nagini there with Voldemort. I'm dedicating the middle square to Snape. Harry is going to go next to Hedwig, and Ron and Hermione are going to be near the Always sign, and then Hagrid is going to go on the blue. Little Dobby goes on the left-hand side opposite Luna near the Hogwarts Express. And this is how I think I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead now and add some hot glue and glue down each of these elements. For the sentiments, they are just stamped on stamping paper. So what I decided to do was rip the edges so it looked like they were old parchment. I used the vintage sepia along the edges, and then I grabbed my tea dye ink pad, and I just give it a light color of tea dye, and it looks like old parchment, which I really love the look of. So I go ahead and I do that for each of the sentiments for each of the squares. It was important for me to give Snape a square of his own, and the comment there that says "a little piece of me is always with you" is really important to me because of his love for Lily. Next is Ron and Hermione's square. These guys are another love story in the Harry Potter series, and so I loved that saying that says "I love you more than socks." I sort of combined that sentiment with Ron and Hermione's love story and Dobby at the bottom. Next I had to add the socks, and the irony of that was I had 5 of them and I kept losing them, as you do with socks, so I ended up putting them as a feature on the bottom. You'll see a little bit later on. The last square was the one with the books, so what I ended up doing was having them stack on top of each other. So I put the one of the Tale of Beetle the Bard down first, and then I added the Book of Potions on top of that, and I held it down so that it looked like there were 2 books on top of each other. Still trying to get the socks on, and also still trying to figure out what to do with this tassel, and so I ended up hooking it there, which I loved, and I put some hot glue, and it looks like it's a broomstick sitting on top of there, so I'm so glad that it made it onto the canvas. I love the representation of the Gryffindor colors there. I also ended up putting the flowers. I put some flowers to partition Harry from Bellatrix on the right hand side there, and I also added a flower to partition Minerva McGonagall from the Dementors. Here we go. I'm about to do a whole row of socks at the bottom. I think this is hilarious. And also, I thought I was done, and as I walked out to my desk to photograph the canvas, I came across a feather on the ground, which is one of my cat's feathers, and so I decided to add it to the canvas up near the books, and you'll see it in the photos. I think it adds such character to the canvas. Last of all, I'm going to use my Wink of Stella. I added it to Hedwig. I'm also going to add it to the Dementors. I am then going to add it to Hagrid's beard, Luna's spectacles, and every wand that everybody is holding. And that is my project. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I had so much fun making it. Thanks again to Raylene for sending me this amazing July kit. Go ahead and check it out. I'm going to leave links in the description box below, as well as everything else that I mentioned during my process video. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you in my next video.